I traveled to Guangxi during the Spring Festival, and I took a COVID test a few days before getting on the train, just in case. A lot of other people also took a test in advance, even though it wasn't mandatory. But since, we're all taking the test, it means we're all lined up. So if somehow someone did have COVID, it's quite risky. To reduce the chance of this happening, a lot of companies would hire people to go directly to the office and test employees as an option. In some areas, people had to wait like an hour or two to get the test. Fortunately, I was able to book in advance, so I didn't really have to wait that long. And after completing it, I just had to scan a QR code and sign up for, I guess, like a WeChat mini app, a mini program, and then I was able to receive my COVID test results within a day. Once I arrived at the train station, I had to scan and show that I had basically a green code, which means I wasn't from a medium or high-risk area, and I'm not showing any signs of COVID. So on any given year, the non-COVID year, you would have a huge number of people traveling back to their hometowns. But due to the pandemic, a lot of people actually stayed in the city they were working at. So for this year, news said it was about 40 million people traveling, but it's actually 40% less than how many people traveled in 2019. As this was actually the first time I stayed in China during Spring Festival, as I was able to travel to other countries on other years. I decided to travel to a smaller city called Liuzhou, which was in Guangxi province. Since China's huge, there's a lot of actual different policies based on the size of the area. What's confusing is that some neighborhoods, like let's say even if you were living in the city area, they would still want to see your COVID test result within 3 to 7 days prior to your arrival. And if you're from a medium or high risk area, which is based on the code, so it would be like a yellow or red code, you'd be quarantined once you arrived at the city. If you have a yellow code, then you are not allowed to leave your house for 14 days. And if you had a red code, you would have to be sent to an actual quarantine hotel for 14 days. I booked a taxi on Didi to pick me up once I got off the train station, but the taxi wasn't approaching. Fortunately, there are a lot of taxis. Once I got on, I realized the taxi was actually waiting to fill the taxi with 4 people total. And then once it was filled, they would actually charge each person 20 kwai.
20块1个人的钱的，可以吗？20块1个人的钱的，20块，20块，20块，20块，20块，20块，20块，20块，20块，20块，20块，可以吗？可以吗？可以吗？
Normally, one person should only pay maybe 13 kwai. And actually, Guilin West Station is not even that far away from the city center. But basically, they're making it more than 60 kwai. This train station still has a relatively traditional, I guess just like an old style from long ago. Think of 80s or 90s. But it was actually renovated in 2013. This place had burgers and fried chicken. It didn't look very good judging by the pictures, but it was actually tasted pretty good. So based on the policies leading up to Spring Festival, it was clear that the government didn't want to take a risk by letting too many people travel. But since a lot of these policies were on the province level, a lot of provinces just made it way too difficult to travel. Like, it was completely unreasonable. So for example, some provinces just, no matter where you came from, even if it's a low risk area, you would have to quarantine. And since a lot of people, like if you take into the quarantine time, they might not even have time to actually visit their family before having to go back to work. So it basically just meant, hey, don't come here. So it seems that the national government realized, well, this isn't reasonable. So they made the provinces relax the rules a bit. But there are other ways to try to dissuade people from going back. For example, some companies actually paid their employees to stay in the city. So this would be Shanghai. So a lot of people, for example, would work in a first-tier city like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and then they would just keep them there. So instead of having them go back to their small town, they just stay there to reduce the risk of spreading COVID. Luckily for me, the policy in Liuzhou wasn't that strict. I just needed to scan a QR code and show that I came from a low-risk area, so being a green code, after I got off the train. Later on, I'll show you around Liuzhou, which is a city famous for luozifen, which is just basically like a river snail soup base with bamboo shoots and other ingredients. It just makes it kind of sour and savory and spicy. It's amazing. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. And if you found this useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for the YouTube algorithm.